Gautier, the mirage of majoritarianism and the myth of intolerance. François Gautier was born in France in the early 80s. He began freelancing in India for different publications and finally ended up being the correspondent in South Asia for the Geneva-based Journal de Genève, then one of the best international newspapers in Europe. In 1993, he switched to Figaro, one of France's leading newspapers, for which he exclusively worked for 10 years. He also started writing regularly for Indian newspapers, first in Blitz Bombay, then in Hindustan Times. Later came the Firangis column in Indian Express and the French Connection column in The Pioneer. He was also the regular contribution maker for Rediff.com, New Indian Express, Times of India, and other prestigious blogs. François, who is married for 25 years to Namrita, shuttles between Pondicherry, Pune, and Delhi. Put your hands together for François Gautier.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm first going to address the myth of intolerance because this is one of the most baffling and incomprehensible myths about India. India is a land of tolerance. If you see today in India and yesterday, every persecuted religious community has found refuge in India. From the Christian Syrians to the Parsis to the Jews. You know, the Jews, the only country in the world where the Jews were never persecuted is India. Many of them went back in 1947, but there's still a few left in Cochin and in Bombay. Today, the Tibetans, every religious community persecuted in the world has found refuge in India. Why? Because it's a land of tolerance. And this tolerance is due to one community, which is called the Hindus. Now, people see Hindus as a religion, but actually it's a spirituality. If you look at Hinduism, if you look at the deep truth of Hinduism, what props it from behind, it's universal spirituality that accepts everybody. Hence, India, land of refuge. So there's this great myth of intolerance about Hindus, and it's funny because it's been a one-way traffic. Hindus, on the one hand, have accepted that, you know, God may be Muhammad, he may be Christ, maybe Krishna, maybe Buddha, maybe Zarathustra. But they've been the most persecuted community in the world. So it's been a one-way traffic, and it always baffled me that the people who were the most persecuted in the world, who suffered the most, are today called intolerant. How did this myth come about? Well, I think the British are greatly responsible for it, because when the British came to India, there were only a few, and they needed, you know, to govern a huge country. And the main problem were the Hindus, because the Hindus were the community that had kept its customs, kept its, you know, spirituality, kept its cultural fabric. So the British set about diminishing the ego of the Hindus, the pride of the Hindus. And I must say they succeeded admirably, because they were ridiculed by the British press, as today they're ridiculed by the Indian press and the international press. Then the British did something very smart. They took the best, you know, the cream of the Hindus, and they got them educated in Oxford or in Cambridge in England. And these people came back totally westernized, and in turn their children and grandchildren. And today you can see that the generation after generation of those people who were educated in UK, no offense here, you know, are ruling India. They're the journalists, they're the, you know, intellectual, they're the high bureaucrats, not the politician. It's a different breed, you know. And they still make fun of Hindus, you know. And this is where majority come, because on this planet, out of 6 person, one is a Hindu. Every 6 person is a Hindu. So Hindu are 1 billion in the world, great majority. There are 1 billion Hindus in the world. There's still about 800 million left in India. And they're one of the most educated, most law-abiding, you know, they don't go about, you know, burning cars and rioting and killing people. Their children top most of the universities. You know, if you see in the US, they have this this spelling competition called Spell Bee. Most of the girls and boys who wins are Hindus, you know. Hindus do well wherever they are, even when they're exported as laborers to Mauritius, you know, they end up, you know, becoming respectable people, putting their children in universities. So Hindus is a, you know, educated, rich community, now emerging, you know, some of the top, you know, some of the top CEOs in the world are Hindus. Politicians are coming a little bit, they're starting to come out in the US. And yet, being 1 billion, they behave as a minority.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.